Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 5th day of Adar, and we continue today the Tanya, chapter 35 that we started yesterday. Alter Rebbe explains in this chapter, what is the point? Why is it so important to have the actual mitzvahs, the mitzvahs of action? As in the verse, the Torah says, that this thing, to serve Hashem, is so near to us, close to you, that you can achieve it easily in your mouth, in your heart, that you may do it. Which this is basically the whole Tanya is based on this verse, how it is easy to achieve, to serve Hashem in every area. However, the focus is on the word la'asosei. Use the extra. He wants to explain more the meaning of the word la'asosei. That the whole thing is that you may do it. It's not enough just to have the inspiration, the ahava, the ira, the love of Hashem. The main thing is that you may do it. And he also asked the question of what is the purpose of this fighting, of this war? We fight. The animal soul, we fight our animalistic desires. And in a way, the godly soul is clothed in the animal soul. And yet, we don't seem to be able to transform it. So what's the point? And Alter Rebbe began saying that this is a comforting us for the fact that we live in such a life and we'll constantly fight. And why is that? Because this is the way that Hashem dwells in us, in our Torah, in our service of Hashem. And that is only when we are here in this physical world, in an animal soul. The godly soul is clothed in the animal soul. And this, Alter Rebbe begins now to explain. So he begins by quoting the Zohar from a statement that comes from the Yenuka. The Yenuka is the child. It was a child of Rav Amnun's Saba, I believe. And there's quotes from this child in the Zohar, amazing quotes, that the sages were just amazed to hear these words of wisdom from this child. And here, that was going to explain he is talking about what it says, a chacham einav b'rosheh, that a wise person has his eyes in his head. And he asked the question, what does that mean? Where else would your eyes be, if not in your head? So let's see inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'ubehagdim loshein hayenuka v'zoya parshas balak." So the above mentioned difficulties will be resolved by clarifying first the comment of the Yenuka, the child, that is quoted in the Zohar parshas balak. Al pasuk hachacham einav b'rosheh. And the verse, it says, the wise man's eyes are in his head. So this is, King Solomon says this. So the Yenuka is asking the question, there comments, where else are a man's eyes? Surely then, the meaning of the verse is as follows. So the Zohar says that none, because it is, we have learned, lo yehach bar nash begiluye dereishe arba ames. A man must not go forth. A man must not go 4 cubits while bareheaded. We wear the yarmulke. Why do we wear the yarmulke? my time, the Shchinte Shari al Reisha, because the Shechina, the divine presence, rests upon his head. That is why we wear the yarmulke. Hashem, the divine presence, rests upon the head. The word yarmulke, some say also, comes from the word Yarei Malka. Yarei Malka means one who has fear of the king. Fear of Hashem. Realizing that there is Hashem, that there's Shechina there. Now then, what does that mean? What does it mean to us? Continues the Zohar and says, V'chol chacham einoi umiloi bereishei inon. Therefore, every wise man has his eyes, meaning his interest and his concerns, and therefore also his speech is concentrated in his head. All of your concern, when you realize that there's Shechina on your head, you realize you focus on what is happening on your head. Meaning in that light of the Shechina, which rests and abides above his head. Okay, so what does that mean? So we know we have light, a light of a Shechina on our head. And we wear the yarmulke, fine. What else does it mean to us? Continues the Zohar and says, V'chad einoi tamon. Now when his eyes, meaning the interest and concerns, are there, Linda, he must know. You must know that the light that is kindled above his head, meaning the light that shines upon his soul, requires oil. This light, this Shechina, needs oil in order to continue to shine. Says the Zohar, why? Begin the gufa de barnash iyo pesila una oira adlik le'ela. Because a man's body is the wick that retains the luminous flame, and the light is kindled above it. So the body is the wick. And then you have the light that is on top of the wick. And you need the wick and the light, and it needs oil. It needs oil in order for the light to continue to light, continue to shine. The question: why do we need oil? When you light a wick, the wick itself also is lights up even without oil. Yes, okay, you're going to say it's not going to last for long. So you bring more wicks. What's the point of the oil? So of course the answer is that it's not just the wick. The fire that comes from the wick is not the same fire that comes from the oil. And Chassidus explains there is the dark fire and there is the light, bright fire. Even in the physical flame, you can see there is the dark fire closer to the wick, and there is the bright fire, which is higher. And the bright fire comes from the oil, and the oil is more of a pure fire that shines, that lights, that burns in a pure way. It is completely consumed in the fire. So here, says the Zohar, that the body is the wick, and has a flame, the Shechina, and the Shechina needs the oil. Now, what is the oil? Continues the Alter Rebbe and says, quoting the Zohar, Ushloima Malka Tzavach Va'ama. And King Solomon cries out, saying, V'shemen al roishcha al yechsa. Let there be no lack of oil above your head. The Hana-Oira, the Beroisha, Yitzrich Lemishcha, says the Zohar, because the light over his head requires oil. Now, what is the oil? The Inun Uvdan Tavan. meaning the good deeds. Doesn't even mention studying Torah. It says the good deeds that you do, the mitzvahs, the good deeds. This is the oil that supplies the light, illuminating his soul. And for this reason, the wise man's eyes are in his head, to ensure that he never lacks oil, never lacks good deeds for this light. Ad kan lashoinai. This quotation from the Zohar ends here. So what is the Alter Rebbe saying here? He quotes the Zohar, and he's beginning to explain the purpose of the mitzvahs of action that he will continue tomorrow. Because really, if you think about this example that is brought down in the Zohar here, the Alter Rebbe will ask the question that we're missing one part. You're talking about the body is the wick, and we're saying that you have the oil, the Shechina is the light, the flame that shines on your head, and you need the oil. You need the oil, which is the good deeds. But you're missing the point that you have also a neshama. We have a body and we have a soul. The soul is spiritual. Can't the soul itself be the oil for the candle, for the flames to burn? So in tomorrow's class, we're going to learn the rest of this chapter 35, and Alter Rebbe will explain why the neshama is not enough, why it is necessary to have the good deeds, and this should serve as oil for the light of the neshama to shine upon us. Thank you very much. This is the end of today's shir, and Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll see you at 9:10 a.m., God willing. All the best.